Welcome back down to my head on YouTube. Yes, we're going.
Okay.
What are we talking about today?
We are going to read some feedback, and it is going to touch on a topic that you mentioned last time. But first, let us say hello to the Andrew Yang fans who are not subscribed to this channel. About 64% of views these days are from non-subscribers. What do you think of that?
Well, if you've watched more than one video from the guy, you should probably subscribe because you might like more in the future.
And we're closing in on 1,000 subscribers.
I don't know who we are. I have no association with this channel.
Except you appear on it.
I appear on it.
So, piece of feedback. This comes from Parker. He writes, I'm a big fan of the proposal to have 16-year-olds vote. If you study childhood human development, you learn that this is the age at which identity is being formed. It would be good to have young people learn to think of themselves as people who are active in a democracy and able to make a difference. Basic civic education would be so much more engaging. The way that high school students learn now is that the voting they engage in for class president and such does not really have any effect on the people in power, the teachers and administrators of the school. I think this is a lesson that is absorbed subconsciously. The people you vote for are not the people in charge, that it really makes no difference. Then, by the time the kids are old enough to vote for real, they are uprooted to a different place to go to college where they are not registered to vote, and it's difficult to register there or get back to the parents' home to vote at home. It's easy just to think, well, I'm at college preparing for life, so I'll put off voting till I have started being an adult, after school. After school, other things can get in the way. I think this combination leads some people to a lifelong disengagement with our democracy. So, both for the way it fits into how humans grow up and for the health and vitality of citizenship in the country, 16-year-old voting is a great thing.
Very long.
Yeah.
And a lot of ideas flowing through my head. First off, you're a theoretical college student that doesn't feel the need to vote because it's too much of a drag. Probably shouldn't vote.
It's not that it's too much of a drag, it's that they're not registered where they're going to school. I generally didn't vote in college for just that reason.
I just don't understand the people who travel to halfway across the country because they want to go to college. It's all like, come into the real world where you have to think about stuff like that. Become an adult. Okay, Collin has a problem with college students because he's a high school dropout who's been in the workforce since he was 16. I've been an adult since I was 16, 15, 14, something like that. So there's a lot of stupid college kids that don't understand reality at all. My older brother is one of them.
How old is he?
22,
Mm-hmm.
I think. Probably. And he's just like, you know what? You didn't feel the need to vote while you were in college. Maybe you shouldn't have. Maybe you shouldn't have. That's fine because you weren't doing the research necessary anyways. You're too busy with your college stuff. And then, so now I remember my main problem with this college is why is it that in the society in America today, people seem to think more voters is better?
Well, we live in a democracy, and a democracy is premised on the idea that people doing the governing have the consent of the governed.
Okay.
So the more people who actually participate in the process, the more legitimacy it brings to the process.
You see, but do you know the biggest problem with democracy? I'm not against democracy. I've got a point coming. The biggest problem with democracy is the majority of people are stupid.
This is true.
So
Not
why?
so much that they're stupid, but they are persuaded by stupid things. They vote based on emotions and
Why are
images.
we encouraging to get people who? I mean, if you're not voting at once you're 18, that's your own choice. You're not motivated to do it. You don't care enough to do it. So you're probably not educated enough and invested enough to be paying enough attention to make the right choice. You're probably just one of those stupid people who's getting swayed by emotions. Oh, I'm in college and it costs me money. Let me vote for Bernie Sanders because he said free college. So like you got to think things through a bit more than that. You understand what I'm saying, KMO?
You're saying that you don't much care for democracy. You would prefer rule by an enlightened elite.
I'm saying that works better, not that everyone knows benevolent dictator is the most efficient form of government. Everyone also knows no such thing as benevolent dictator, and that's why we have democracy and small terms. So we can, if we have too many stupid people voting and we start going in the wrong direction, hopefully we it's not messed up too bad before we can compensate. But
Are you familiar with Winston Churchill's famous quote on democracy?
probably.
Democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others that have been tried.
Well, we also don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic with elected representatives, which might be worse than democracy. But the main point is we have the Constitution that says here's how things are going to be run, and you can change it in a few ways, but it's really difficult to change it. And it's not just 55% people said they think KMO shouldn't be allowed to vote. No more voting for KMO.
You know, if enough people knew who KMO was, that they could get that issue on the ballot, I could work with that.
Do you know where the United States would be right now if it was a democracy? Just think back to the 1800s, where the South was the most populated area. If it was a true democracy, no electoral college, where do you think we would be?
Where would we be? What are you saying?
Saying we would have been ruled by the South right then and been put back in the civil rights area like 100 years at least. Anyways, that's another topic that I've been thinking about with the electoral college and Donald Trump didn't win the popular vote. So that's arguments for the electoral college and why we're running that way. So not really relevant to voting at 16.
Hey, you know what? I didn't read the very last comment. The very last paragraph of his comment. It ends with, plus, wouldn't it be nice to expand on freedom for a change? As it is more common for freedoms to be eroded and chipped away.
I agree with that point. But now I'm going to go back to the page before that because I remembered what I was thinking. It was the part where the issue with we're teaching kids their votes don't matter because they're voting for class president doesn't actually affect anything. Well, I can tell you right now, your vote for class president in high school probably affects you the most of any vote you're going to cast ever
Why
in
do
your
you say
life.
that?
At least on a national scale, on a local scale, you can change things. But I voted. Do you know what difference it made? 0. An individual voter is not going to change anything.
Particularly in a state like Vermont.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if my vote was useless, me talking is more valuable.
Yep.
So
particularly you're talking online on YouTube.
Online on YouTube. Heck, me shouting from my porch reaches more people than my vote does.
So I remember way back in elementary school, we had, votes for class president. And two candidates would get up and one of them would say, my opponent is going to promise you chocolate milk in the cafeteria, but they don't have the power to give you chocolate milk, so why vote for them? Never really finishing the thought of, well, why vote for you then, if neither one of you has any power? But it has been clear, not just to me, but I think to most of the kids in the classes that I was, coming up with, that voting for class president was really just a popularity contest to pad out somebody's, what do you call it, resume, curriculum vitae, what do you call it for a student?
I don't know. Applications for college?
Yeah, but
Dude, I dropped out of school before this class president thing was a thing. I have no idea what they even do.
Nothing.
Okay. I would have put up the best campaign for class president. Yep. Everyone hated me. I would have lost terribly. Okay, so in my final conclusions for Mr. Parker, I disagree with most of the points you make, but the argument for 16-year-old and 17-year-olds voting is not necessarily one I'm opposed to. Here's the argument I propose you go with in the future. Taxation without representation is theft. If you're old enough to get a job at 16 and the federal government will then take federal tax money from you, thus you deserve representation.
That's true.
But you're also stupid, so I don't know if you deserve crap. I'm just saying, when I was 18, I could have voted in the 2016 presidential elections, but I didn't. But I was very tempted to go vote and write in Harambe for president. And that's why people talk about maturity.
Well, I voted every time I was able to when I was living in a place where I was registered. But I would have voted for Bill Clinton, but I was living in Japan the first time he got elected. And then when he got reelected, I was living in Seattle, but I hadn't yet transferred my voter registration.
How are you to get an absentee ballot in Japan?
I have no idea.
Oh,
this was pre-internet days. I was not.
You didn't want to call the United States. The long distance charges, man. He's old.
Yeah, there was such a thing as international long distance charges, and they were not cheap.
Oh no, wait. If we let 16-year-old votes, then there's going to be a future where a father's the kid who died when he was 15 came back from the dead at 16 to vote Democrat. And then the father's going to kill himself because his son would never vote Democrat.
What are you talking about?
Dead people voting. So it's a dead 16-year-olds voting.
I say.
It was a stupid joke. I'm really tired. Anyways.
So I think it would be fine to have 16-year-olds vote. Most
Makes
wouldn't.
no difference.
Most wouldn't vote. Most 18-year-olds don't vote. Most 20-year-olds don't vote. You know who votes?
Old people.
Old people. And you know what? Old people who vote.
I'm gonna vote for him.
No.
That's why.
No, old people are not going to vote for him.
That's why I'm saying the Democrats shouldn't put him up for general. But
yeah. Because
I like him somewhat.
Old people love them some welfare, but they don't like to call it welfare. Because Medicare, can't touch that. Social Security, can't touch that. I mean, it might be the government giving you money, but it's not welfare.
Well,
But Medicare for all, that would be welfare.
You see, Social Security as it originally was not welfare until the government decided, oh, that's our money, we can spend it. And we can just take and give to whoever we decide. It was originally a bank account, basically. Well, it never was, but that's what they said it was.
That was the notion.
And that's what
point
Medicare is supposed to be, too. You work when you're my age, and they take all of your paycheck for Social Security and Medicare. And then when I'm old, I'm supposed to have Social Security and Medicare, but instead it's going to the girl who cries about having anxiety and can't work, so she's on Social Security disability. And that was my TED Talk.
All right. I think we're done.
Like, comment, subscribe. Pew!
What he said.